Jeremy Fink and the Meaning of Life, Chapter 1, The Box. June 22nd. Did you ever notice how the colors seem brighter the first day of summer vacation? I asked Lizzie. The birds sing louder, the air is alive with possibility. Huh? Lizzie mutters, fingering through the comic books on the wall of my Uncle Arthur's store, Fink's Comics and Magic. Yeah, sure. Brighter, louder, alive. It would bother some people if their best friend only half listened to them, but I figure talking to Lizzie is one step better than talking to myself. At least this way people on the street don't stare at me. Over the next 2 months, I plan on learning a new magic trick or two, borrowing the 8th grade textbooks from the library to get a jump on my assignments, but not telling Lizzie, who would make fun of me, and sleeping as late as I want. This is going to be a summer of leisure, and smack in the middle of the state fair and on my long-awaited 13th birthday. Usually I love going to the fair, but this year I actually have to enter one of the competitions and I'm dreading it. At least my birthday comes the same week. I'm so tired of being considered a kid, and am eager to officially become a teenager. It will finally learn the secret code of teendom. I hope there's a handshake. I've always wanted to belong to a club with a secret handshake. Run! Lizzie says sharply in my ear. Lizzie saying run in my ear can only mean one thing. She has stolen something. She is lucky my uncle and cousin Mitch are in the back room and didn't see her. They do not look kindly upon shoplifters. By the time I manage to thrust my comic book on the shelf, she is halfway out the door. In her rush, she's knocked over by my backpack, which I had propped up carefully on the floor between us. All the stuff flies out, unzipped from the unzipped top for all the other shoppers to see. I grab the bag and quickly toss it back in my dog-eared copy of Time Travel for Dummies, a half-eaten peanut butter sandwich, and a pack of Starbursts. 2 bite-sized peppermint patties, assorted magic tricks that I've collected over the years, the bottle of water that I've always had on me because one can never be too hydrated, the astronaut pen that allows me to write in all conditions, including underwater and while lying on my back, and finally my wallet, which always has at least $8 in it because my dad once told me that if a man has $8 on him, he can always get home. Then I take back out one of my peppermint patties, quickly unwrap it, and stick it in my mouth. I blame my dad for my sweet tooth. His motto was, life is short, eat dessert first. How can I argue with that? Slinging the backpack over my shoulder, I slip out the door and look up and down the street for Lizzie. Her red hair makes her so easy to spot. She's leaning against the window in Larry's Locks and Clocks, admiring her newest treasure. An orange flyer advertising the debut of a Betty and Veronica double issue. Only moments ago it had been taped up to the wall in the store. Can't you use your talents for good instead of evil? I ask, swallowing the last of my peppermint patty. She doesn't answer. She just folds the paper haphazardly and tucks it into her back pocket. Why, Lizzie? I ask as we start walking down the block toward home. Why? Why what? She asks, popping a piece of grape bazooka in her mouth. She offers me one, but I shake my head. Grape and peppermint do not mix. Why steal something that has no monetary value? Would you rather I'd stole something that does have monetary value? Of course not. Well, stop complaining then, she says. You know, I can't explain the reasons for things I take. I don't choose them. They choose me. What about all the customers who want to learn more the new Betty and Veronica because of you? She shrugs. Nobody reads Archie comics anymore. It's true that Archie comics are always the last ones left at the end of the month. Archie was my dad's favorite when he was a boy, so he always made sure to stock them. Uncle Arthur doesn't know enough about comics to tell the difference between Mutant X-Men from Outer Space and Richie Rich, so he keeps ordering all of them. It's not really the point, I tell her. It's not like you'll cry over your uncle losing a sale or two. You can't stand him, remember? It's not that I can't stand him, I insist, crossing my arms. You try having an uncle who ignores you and who is the identical twin of your dead father and see how you like it. Lizzie is quiet now and entirely focused on picking the scab on her elbow. I shouldn't have said that about my dad. When he died, Lizzie was almost as upset as I was. He was like her second parent. As upset as she was, though, she still slept on the floor of my room in her sleeping bag for 3 straight weeks until I could sleep through the night again. We managed to reach our apartment building in Murphy Hill without either of us further depressing the other and without Lizzie stealing anything else. One of our neighbors, Mr. Zoder, is slowly heading up the stairs. It's Friday, so he's wearing yellow. My parents always said that New York City is full of characters, and that's why they wouldn't want to live anywhere else. We're about to follow him inside when our mailman, Nick, shows up, wheeling his huge blue cart. Howdy, Nick, Lizzie says, saluting him. Well, if it isn't Lizzie Molden and Jeremy Fink, he replies, tipping his hat. All the mailmen in the neighborhood knew who Lizzie and my dad were because he worked at the post office. Let's see what I've got for you guys today. Nick reaches into his cart and lifted out a big cardboard box. To my surprise, it is addressed to Elaine Fink, with our address on it. I can't imagine what it would be, since Mom never buys anything through the mail. In fact, except for food and my clothes, which I insist to be new after a kid in my class told me I was wearing a sweater his mom had thrown out the week before, we don't own much of anything that wasn't from a flea market or found on the street or on bulk trash day. It's not that we can't afford new things. Mom has a job at the library, but she believes retail is for suckers and that recycling other people's belongings saves the environment somehow. So what's in the box? Nick is about to hand it to me when he hesitates and then sets it back in the cart. Instead, he hands me a regular assortment of bill and mail and junk. Wait, I say after he hands Lizzie her mail. What about the box? Isn't that for my mom? Sure is, Nick replies, but it's registered mail. That means it's got to be signed for by an adult. But my mom's at work all day. I'm sure she won't mind if I sign for it. Jeremy is as tall as some adults, Lizzie states. That should count for something. Nick shakes his head. Your mom can pick it up at the post office on her way to work tomorrow. Not one to give up, Lizzie says. That box looks heavy. You don't want to have to lug it around the rest of your route, do you? Nick laughs. It's not that heavy. I think I can manage. He starts to wheel his cart to the next building, and we keep pace with him. But Nick, I plead, tomorrow's Saturday and our branch of the post office is closed. My mom wouldn't be able to get that box until Monday. If it's a special delivery, maybe that means it's really important, like medicine or something, Lizzie adds. Right, I say eagerly. Something that can't wait a whole weekend. I thought I heard Miss Fink Coffee this morning, Lizzie says. She could have that bird flu thing, or German measles, or... Nick holds up his hand. Enough, enough. Soon you'll have been quarantined for the plague. He reaches over for the box, and Lizzie and I flash each other a quick grin. I sign my name as neatly as possible on the slip and hand it back to him. Just make sure you leave it for her to open, he instructs, laying the box in my waiting arms. Yeah, Lizzie says. Opening other people's mail is a federal offense. We know the drill. Bye, Nick, I say, eager to get the package upstairs. It isn't heavy, but it's awkward to carry. Stay out of trouble, he says in parting. Who, us? Lizzie calls after him. They climb up the short flight of stairs on the first floor where we both live. Mom told me last week that the new family would be soon moving into the empty apartment at the end of the hall. I'm very curious to see who they will turn out to be. Circus performers? A minor league baseball player? Most kids would probably hope for more kids his age. But I don't care about that. Why would anyone need more than one good friend? Since my arms are full, Lizzie uses her copy of my apartment key and opens the door. I head straight into the kitchen and rest the box on the three-legged kitchen table with the big improvement over the two-legged one that my parents had to glue to the wall to keep it from tipping over. So, Lizzie asks. That's familiar. Let's do something bad. A gleam in her eye. Are we going to open it? At the same time, we both lean closer to read the return address label. It's scuffed up and hard to make out. Fulgord and Levine, Esquires, she reads. What does Esquires mean? Esquires means lawyers, I explain. I pride myself on knowing my obscure facts. It's all those midnight hours of reading. Why would a bunch of lawyers send something to your mom? I don't know. Maybe she robbed a bank, Lizzie suggests, and the evidence against her is in the box. Come on, I say. As you can tell by our apartment, Mom isn't interested in having fancy things. I watch Lizzie's eye in the curtains made from strings of beads and tie-dyed sheet on the wall that hides a long crack. The collection of old black and white postcards, all showing some breed of dog dressed in a tutu, the three-legged table. Okay, she says, so she didn't rob a bank, but hey, maybe she won something. Does she still enter all those crazy contests? I'm not sure, I answer hesitantly. Mom and I don't see each other that much anymore. She has her job at the library during the day, and then she takes art classes 3 nights a week at the school, where my Aunt Judy, Mom's twin sister, teaches. My mother is also an identical twin. But unlike my dad and Uncle Arthur, she and Aunt Judy actually like each other. Lizzie asks, remember when your mom had to come up with a 10-word description for apple pie, and she won a different pie every month for a year? Ah, yeah, I recall. The year of pies fondly. Pies are not as good as candy, but they are still better than anything else Mom had ever tried over the years to get me to eat. We made that final pie, rutabaga, as I recall, last for weeks, taking only one bite at a time. This box doesn't look like it holds pies, though, or vacuum bags, or Florida oranges, or packets of Jell-O, or any other thing Mom had won over the years by writing jingles or collecting box tops or labels from cans. I examined the box itself, thick cardboard with a single layer of clear packing tape running down the center. You know what this means? Lizzie asks, pointing to the tape. That we can lift off the tape without ruining the box, and then we can press the tape back down and my mother won't know the difference. Yup, not gonna happen, I say, plopping down onto the kitchen chair that Mom hasn't managed to turn into an art project yet. The others either covered in a scratchy fake leopard purr or have bottle caps. The actual caps of bottles, not the candy. Running up and down the legs and across the back. If you're afraid of that federal offense thing, Lizzie says, that's only if it's just stranger's mail, I think. We will wait till Mom gets home, I say firmly. I expect her to continue the argument, but instead she stands by the box, looking a bit too innocent. Gravely, I ask, Lizzie, did you do something? In a rush, she blurts, it's not my fault! The end of the tape just lifted right up. I jump from the chair to see that she has peeled away a few inches of the tape from the side of the box facing her. I have to admit, it really had come up very smoothly, not ripping or taking any of the cardboard with it. Okay, I say quickly. Let's do it before I change my mind. Lizzie claps her hands, and we set to work, gently lifting the tape up from both ends. We eventually meet in the middle and lift the whole piece straight off. Lizzie drapes it over the top of the kitchen chair. I open the 4 flaps and we look in. At first, all we can see is a bunch of crumpled pieces of newspaper. For a brief moment, I think there's nothing else inside. I'm afraid to touch anything, but Lizzie apparently has no such qualms because she digs right in and pulls the balls of newspaper with both hands. She tosses them onto the table and is about to reach back in for the next layer when I stop her. Wait, I say, gathering the balls into a neat pile. We'll have to pack this back up later. We need to know exactly how we found it. I'm about to lay a wad of newspaper onto the pile when a headline catches my eye. I smooth the crumpled paper on the table, my heart quickening. I hold the page out to Lizzie and say, look at this article. She shakes her head. You know I don't believe in reading the newspaper. Too depressing. Why would I start reading it now? Just read it, I persist. It's from the science section. She rolls her eyes and grabs the paper from me. Scientists believe black holes might be key time to travel. So what? She asks. Just add this to your time travel file. Your mom won't notice one piece of newspaper missing. I don't need to add it to my file, I tell her, taking the paper back and rolling it back up into a ball. I already have it. Huh? The newspaper is 5 years old. She grabs more pieces out of the box until she finds one with a date on it. With a sharp intake of a breath, she says, You're right! This page is from a week after... Lizzie's words trail off and she busies herself pulling more paper out of the box. I know what she was going to say. The paper is from the week after my father died. Silently, we pull out the rest of the newspaper until only 2 things are left in the box. A typed letter on business letterhead and a rectangle object the size of a shoebox, wrapped in tissue paper. We stare at each other wide-eyed. Lizzie starts to reach for the letter and then pulls back. Maybe you should do it. But what if it's something my mom wouldn't want us to see? We've come this far, she says, then quickly adds, but it's up to you. I wipe my sweating hands on my shorts. As much as I don't want to admit, I'm drawn in by the mysterious package, and I can't help myself. I square my shoulders and carefully lift out the letter, trying not to wrinkle it. The address on the top is the same as the one on the return label. The letter, at least, is not 5 years old because it has yesterday's date on it. I read it out loud, trying to keep my voice steady. Dear Lainey, I hope this finds you well. I know I wasn't supposed to send it until later this summer, but we have shut down the Manhattan branch, and I didn't want to take the chance of misplacing it in the move to our Long Island office. Another reason to send it early. And you won't like this. I'm afraid is that I seem to have misplaced the keys. I'm fairly certain that you sent them along with the box to my office, and I have a vague recollection of hiding them somewhere quite clever. Alas, too clever, I'm sorry to say. The locksmith I visited explained that the locking mechanism on the box is an intricate system of levers and pulleys. Each of the 4 keyholes needs a different type of key, and an internal latch will prevent the box from being pried open. Figures Jack wouldn't settle for a normal box with 1 keyhole like everyone else. I am certain you and Jeremy will figure this out before the time comes. I have nothing but fond memories of Jack from our college days, and I'm honored to do him this favor of holding on to this all these years. All my best wishes to you. Yours truly, Harold. Lizzie takes the letter from my hand and reads it over to herself. What does this mean? She says quietly. Lizzie rarely says anything quietly, so I know she's as surprised as I am. I don't trust myself to speak, so I shake my head. I can't recall my father mentioning a college buddy named Harold, although admittedly I turned I tuned out whenever my parents started reminiscing about the old college days, but this Harold person must have known them pretty well, since he called Mom Lainey, which one of her close friends do. So my mother sent this package to him and told him to send it back 5 years later. Why would she do that? And what does he mean about doing a favor for my dad? Before I can stop myself, I reach in and lift the wrapped object out of the box. The tissue paper slides off and falls to the floor. I'm left holding a smooth wooden box with keyholes on 4 sides. A clear varnish makes the wood seem almost alive. The first thought that strikes me is how pretty it is. I had never thought that a wooden box could be pretty. Heck, I don't think I've ever been used the word pretty before, and if Lizzie ever asked, I'd deny using it now. Lizzie bends down to pick up the piece of tissue paper at my feet. She stands up slowly and says, Jeremy? I'm unable to take my fingers from the box in my hands. I shake it gently and hear some muffled objects shift and knock against each other. I can't weigh more than 2 pounds. You might want to turn that over, Lizzie says. I just keep shaking the box back and forth, mesmerized. She finally grabs it from my hands, flips it over, and hands it back. Staring up at me are the engraved words, "The meaning of life for Jeremy Fink to open on his 13th birthday." I'd recognize my dad's handiwork anywhere.